After the parliamentary elections in Scotland, First Minister Nicola Sturgeon sees the country on the way to independence from London. But the formation of a government is stalling. According to the latest results, the pro-independence party SNP narrowly missed an absolute majority in the parliamentary elections in Scotland. But the camp of independence advocates achieved a clear majority there. Together with the Greens, First Minister Nicola Sturgeon's party has a solid 72 seats in the Scottish Parliament. 65 seats are enough for an absolute majority. The SNP and Sturgeon see themselves clearly strengthened in their course towards independence from London. It is the will of the country, said Sturgeon after the election in Scotland. The head of government wants to lead the country back to the EU in spite of Brexit. Most experts believe that a referendum would not be legal without approval from London. Sturgeon has already announced that she will go to the Supreme Court if necessary. But the Greens in Scotland are still shy. Its leader Patrick Harvie said shortly after the results and after they were announced that there were no plans to form a joint government with the SNP. One will wait for the official final results. According to the Scottish media, negotiations on a coalition could then begin. Boris Johnson, who achieved great success with his Conservative Party in the local elections in England, immediately tried everything to smooth the balance between Edinburgh and London. The British Prime Minister called on his Scottish counterpart in a letter to cooperate and invited her to a meeting in which the heads of the other parts of Wales and Northern Ireland should also take part. I have a passionate belief that the interests of the people of the UK and especially the people of Scotland are best served when we work together, wrote Johnson. Especially in difficult times such as the corona pandemic, which is still rampant in Great Britain, the value of cooperation has shown itself, said Johnson, who, as is known, ended cooperation with the European Union with Brexit. With the election victory in sight, the Scottish First Minister increases the pressure on London for a new independence referendum. But the majority are still not sure about it. The veto of British Prime Minister Boris Johnson could ultimately even be good for her. Even before Scotland had counted all the seats in its next parliament on Saturday, Boris Johnson's loud no could be heard in Edinburgh. As the British Prime Minister only constitutionally authorised to give the Scots a new referendum on independence, he will not do just that. At first glance, an unacceptable provocation for First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, who presents her expected, possibly even, very close to an absolute majority as a clear mandate for another referendum. Everything else means denying the Scots democracy, insists the head of the Scottish National Party, the SNP. In truth, however, it suits the Scottish woman that there will be no second referendum anytime soon. Even before the pandemic, her government had serious financial problems and no plan how to achieve independence after Brexit and Corona. 75% of 16 to 35-year-olds who want their own state are behind Sturgeon. But this number is not enough for Sturgeon to risk a referendum in the near future. The polls do not see a stable majority in favour of leaving the 314-year-old union with England. That is why the nationalist relies on a lengthy, tough confrontation with Johnson, which feeds the aversion of many Scots to the Tories in England. Sturgeon is betting that Johnson, meanwhile, will not be able to fulfil his expensive promises of rapid structural reforms. On the other hand, the consequences of Johnson's Brexit will soon be felt in Scotland, which have so far been difficult to assess due to the pandemic. If the EU states also signal that they are accepting an independent Scotland as a member, Sturgeon's calculation could ultimately work. And it's going to be a very interesting time, but as I said in my live stream on Sunday, I don't think that, not at all this year there will be a referendum. I think it's kind of the half of the legislation period that we can expect something like that. And it might end up in the Supreme Court, but not because Sturgeon is calling them. I think Sturgeon will do the legislation and then let Johnson go to the Supreme Court. And then the whole thing will be clear, because it was never cleared at the Supreme Court how independent the Scottish government is. But then it will be. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel. Auf Wiedersehen.